everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life. I'm your host, Lori Palau. So happy that you're here. I don't know about you, but I am freezing. My bun's off. I am mainlining coffee. I'm sitting here, and I'm somebody who's like in the throes of menopause and always hot. And I just cannot get this chill out of my bones. So I am counting down the days until warmer weather. And I just want to share that with you. So if you see me on YouTube and I look like I am um, chilled, it's because I am. And I hope wherever you are, you might be somewhere that's warm. And maybe you're listening to us as you're taking a bike ride or a walk at the beach. I don't know. But I've been thinking about today's episode. And before we get into it, because it's all about practical solutions, which is like right up my alley. I just want to take a few minutes to talk about a couple of changes, updates, things happening in our ecosystem that you may or may not be aware of. So, we send out our weekly, I'll call it a newsletter. I really hate that word. It's just so like blah. But we send out like a weekly recap, I would say, of like things that are happening, episodes on the podcast, other like events or things that we're doing that we want you to be aware of that we think are going to bring value to you. So if you're not already on getting those weekly emails, to hop on, there's a link below. Definitely, I encourage you to sign up because anytime we launch like a new service offering or if we have something special coming up, a promotion, you guys, our email list is usually the first people to hear about it. Sometimes even before I release it on the podcast. So definitely get that. We send it every Friday. It's not spammy. And so it's just a great way for you to be in the know, especially if you're not on social or you're limiting your social because we don't put all of our things on social. We put like little things, but it's mostly all the major stuff would be on our email. So definitely get that. Second thing is we have recently launched a new I guess I'll call it a mini series that is right now on YouTube. I don't know if at the time of this recording if it's going to be live on the podcast audio only feed. We will be having it audio only, but it's definitely going to be live on our YouTube. And it is 12 different mini episodes for people who want to start a professional organizing business. So we have our cohort, which is great, but we've got a lot of people that say to me, I really don't have any startup capital. I really want to start a business. And honestly, if you're going to do it, I want you to do it wisely. I want you to do it right. And so, yes, it's not a replacement for our cohort. I think there's something to be said for investing in yourself and one-on-one training and live training from somebody that is going to give you specific tools and all the things. But if that is not in the cards for you at the moment and you have been thinking about starting a professional organizing business, or maybe you launched one and you are at a roadblock with some of the business side of the things, this is a great place to start. I mean, it doesn't get any cheaper than free. And if you head on over to our YouTube channel, which is This Organized Life Podcast, you can just click on that. And we have it purposely going on a separate feed because we know we have kind of this split audience of people who are here for business stuff. And then we have people that are just here for organizing tips and strategies. So we wanted to keep this separate for you. And definitely there's some free checklists and downloads just geared towards that. So if I'm talking to you, that is where I would love for you to head over. And then the final thing that I want to announce is we are going to be kicking off. We're actually relaunching, I should say, our Clutter Clinic series. Now, the Clutter Clinic was a speaker series that I created back in 2013. And this was my first foray into my in-person, like it was a produced live speaking event that I was giving to people. And it was something that we did in person. I did it for years, taught other professional organizers how to host and run their own clutter clinics. And we have decided here, and when I say we, the team and I, that we wanted to bring it back for you guys, our podcast listeners, as a way for you to have a really concentrated deep dive training on different areas of the home that we want, that are often like common clutter traps or that need to get organized. And so there are going to be 6 different webinars. You can pick and choose a la mode, or a la mode, that's with a la carte, a la mode. You can put ice cream on it if you want. A la carte, you can choose the which topics are interest to you, or you can buy the bundle. And they're going to be live trainings. It's going to be the first Friday of the month starting in April. I believe we're going to run April through October, maybe taking a month off in the summer. I'm not sure, but all the details are on the website now. So we have a new shop page, or a new event page rather, that has all the information on it. And it's going to be awesome because I'm going to be really able to focus in on a specific area of the home and talk about why it's a clutter trap. What are some practical things that you could do? What are some of my favorite products or my favorite tips and strategies for that? So it is basically like a podcast episode on steroids, and you get to be in it live with me. So we're going to be doing them over Zoom. So you could be anywhere and have access to it. There is a small cost to it, very small, but we wanted to make this as a way that you could really, really jumpstart your own organizing journey. And so you can head on over to our website, simplybeorganized.com. I think it's /workshops. And there's also going to be a link in our show notes below. And that will take you right there to sign up. And again, like I said, the best part is you don't have to go to all of them. You can pick and choose the one that you want, or you could do the entire bundle. And I think there's like a VIP thing. If you do the bundle, you get like a live Q&A with me. But anyway, that's it. So hopefully all of these different resources will meet you where you are in your decluttering and organizing journey. So there you go. All right. So back to today's episode, which the title of it is how to create organizing systems that actually work. Now, one of the things that I hear most common from, like, probably one of the most common things is, I can't get this to stick. I try and I fail. I try and the other people in my family can't keep up with it. Whatever I do, I start strong, and then within a week or two, and sometimes it's even a few days, it just falls apart. And you can fill in the blanks. This can go for organizing. This can go for budgeting. This can go for exercise or eating healthy. Anything that requires like ongoing discipline, maintenance, changing your behaviors, changing your habits. It's a work in progress, let's be honest. And so what I want to do today is first identify, why are these things failing? Like, why do we find that the things that we're trying are not working or not sticking? And then what do we do about it? What are some practical, simple things that you can do to help you like get past that roadblocks, past that hurdle, and start to actually see some progress, start to gain some momentum and see the fruits of your labor like paying off, and doing it in a way that doesn't seem hard, because everything in life seems hard these days. And what I don't want to do is add to that by creating an organizing system or routine that is going to be difficult. So first, let's start by why some organizing systems fail. Well, first of all, a lot of times they're just too darn complicated. People make things where you have to, put something in a different room, or you have to put it in a bin a certain way, or you have to fold things a certain way, or you have to hang it in color coded order, or whatever it is. So we make these systems seem really good on paper, but then when you have to do it, you're like, there's 75 steps for me to get it to look like that. And nobody has that time, let alone even if they remember half of the steps. So overcomplicating it is one of the biggest things. Which leads me to the second thing, which is that it's just not sustainable. Again, when we make things complicated or we put on too much of an expectation, that's when we set ourselves up for failure. So we almost have to, again, lower the bar. Let's just look at what are we trying to accomplish, and how can we reverse engineer it? Because really, our organizing systems should fit our lifestyle. So somebody that is a single person living at home, living by themselves, is going to have a very different organizing system and strategy than a busy mom with 3 kids under the age of 5 and is trying to figure something out. And that's going to be very different than the mom who's got teenagers or somebody who's an empty nester. So we're all going to have to pivot and tweak our systems and strategy based on our personal habits, our lifestyles, all the things. So just bear that in mind. Okay. So now that we know we're going to try to set them up, what is the first thing that we're going to do? When you want to create any organizing system, okay, I always tell people, let's start with the end goal in mind and then work backwards. So what problem are you solving? So let's just say, for example, you are racing around in the morning, like your mornings are chaotic. So you want to think about, okay, if my mornings are chaotic, I hate this. What am I going to do? You want to get beyond I just want to have an organized house, or I don't want to have so much clutter. We need to get really, really specific. So you think about, okay, I don't want it to be crazy. What are some things I could do? Oh, well, I'm always racing around looking for my phone or my keys or my kids, backpacks. So having a space, and I know that I've said this before, this is not rocket science, people, but having a space that is in your daily routine would make sense. So again, if you are like, we go out the front door every single day, then you need to have your keys and the kids' backpack by the front door. That's just my opinion. If you have your kids' mudroom at the back of the house, but you don't go out there, then I think that is when people start to fall through the cracks. So maybe you have the mudroom in the back of the house and that's where they keep their stuff. But every night before you go to bed, they take their backpacks and they set them by the front door. Okay. Maybe that's just what you do. And some people that are like super type A perfectionists might be like twitching when they say that. But my point is, things get lost because they are not like in our line of sight at those critical times. They are, especially if you're in a race against the clock in the mornings, you want things in your sight, because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. So what are the things that we can do to simplify our morning routine? What are the things that we can do? So if we know we're always racing, or maybe it is something like the kids are always, running later. They don't have time to eat breakfast. Okay. Like that was a common one. Like, we don't have time to eat breakfast. Maybe they need to get up 15 minutes before, or maybe you need to have grab and go breakfast snacks, so that they could just take it and, eat it on the bus. So figuring out what can we do that's going to be realistic for our organizing needs to make this more sustainable, right? And sometimes that comes from reverse engineering it. Okay. Second thing is designing the systems around your natural habits. Now, I love this. This all plays into like all the work I do with the Enneagram about saying different personalities respond differently to clutter. Their clutter threshold is different. Some people like to see everything, nice and neat and tied up with a little bow, like our Enneagram ones. Maybe other people want to, have it all out in the open so they can just have it, easily accessible. So you really need to think about, what are your natural habits? What is it that is going to make it make sense for you? And this, my friends, especially my mom friends, This is really important when it comes to your kids or even your spouse. Because if you, but I'm saying kids because you're responsible. I'm assuming you're responsible for helping to develop and institute the habits in your house. Now, if you are creating a habit for the way your brain works, and that is not how your kids' brains work, you are going to run into a roadblock. And obviously, this is age appropriate. And when your kids are super little, you're doing a lot and you're carrying a lot of the doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So for example, if your kids in preschool, you might be putting their stuff in their backpack. But once your kids get old enough to have ownership, and once you expect them to have ownership, then it's so important to try to mirror the habits around what their natural tendencies are. Now, wait a second, because I know you're probably thinking, well, my kid's a hot mess. My kid's a procrastinator. I can't do that. So I understand that. And I'm not saying that we have to leave things to the 11th hour, but if you know certain things about your children's habits, then what I'm saying is give them less choices if maybe that's the thing that stresses out. Have them make sure their clothes are picked out the night before. Make sure you have a checklist for them so that they can go through it before they walk out the door. Knowing your kids, if your kid's got ADD or your kid is that, like, whatever the situation is, start to say, how can I empower my kids to own this, be independent, and create a system that is going to make sense for them so that they're either not forgetting it, I'm not yelling, I'm not dropping off the homework at school, whatever the situation is. So think about, again, the natural habits. And this also goes through for like kind of where you store things. Can also just be something simple like, hey, my natural habit is I come in, I sort the mail, but I don't want to have paper clutter. Well, let me put a shredder in the kitchen. Those are the types of things that we want to know what your natural habits are. I come in, I need to have a drop spot in this location, or maybe I need to change where I'm coming in. Maybe I need to come in through the garage versus coming in through the front door, things like that. So think about what is your natural habits. Okay. Number 3. And again, this is an obvious one. Keep it simple and sustainable. Fewer steps, the better. Anything that's more than like 2 to 3 steps max, to me, forget it. And this I see a lot when it comes to organization in the bedroom, like with your closets and your dressers. It can be with folding or hanging or putting stuff away. Gosh, laundry is such a clutter trap for so many people. Again, I'm married to laundry loving Josh, who's a little bit OCD. And by a little, I mean a lot OCD when it comes to laundry. So we don't personally have this because that's his domain. However, I see so many people running into like frustration and emailing me about my laundry system's a mess. I can't get it under control. And again, this isn't limited to laundry, but as I was coming up with the talking points for this, I was thinking this is a specific topic that I think so much of this has to, like, this is such an area that's like a hot button for that. Just keep it a few steps, right? Whatever it is. And maybe it means give every single person a laundry basket. As soon as the laundry basket gets filled, it gets washed and then put away. Like, very simple. Not we have to sort 10 different things. Today is this day, today's that day. Like, figure if what you're currently doing isn't working, let's go back and rework it. Let's figure out what can we do that is going to make it super simple. And sometimes that is, trial and error. We have to figure it out. And it also evolves, which we'll get into kind of in the maintenance section. Like, what worked at one point may stop working at some point, and we may have to readjust. Chances are we will. It's just like when you work out, your body starts to plateau. Things that were giving you results at one point are not giving you results now. And so you have to make some adjustments. Okay, the next thing, the fourth thing is building flexibility into your system. And what I mean by this is twofold. First, you have to have margin. If your system is super rigid and it can only be done this particular way at this particular time, and you have no grace of margin for time, people, space, whatever, you're gonna you're gonna hit a brick wall at some point. It's gonna be destined to like blow up in your face, because life is fluid. And so our systems have to be able to bend, flow, or ebb and flow. I don't know why I'm coming up with these like crazy expressions with you. So we have to reassess. This comes when our kids go through different seasons, go through different ages, go through different stages. You might be owning something and then they get a little bit more independent, and then you relinquish a little bit of control. Maybe it's a busier season for you or your spouse with work, and so something that you were maybe owning, maybe now you're passing the torch to somebody else to kind of spearhead and you know be in charge of. So think about how you can build some flexibility, and this also comes through a lot where I talk a lot about this when we transition into like the summer months, when especially if you've got kids at home, right? Our schedules go through most of us, our schedules go through like a big change come like April, May for the summer months. And then kind of we get back into a different routine back in August, September, when the kids go back to school, depending on where you live. And so building that flexibility into your system is really, really important. And then the fifth piece is that accountability and maintenance piece. So the reality of it is, I don't care how great your system is, somebody's got to run it. Somebody's got to do it. And if you're not doing it, then you're delegating it to somebody else who is. But it is something that has to be ongoing. Unfortunately, organizing and decluttering isn't a one and done thing. I wish it were, but it's not. And the reality of it is, if we were able to change our habits and bring less in, the maintenance will be easier, right? If we're changing some of the habits that weren't working or the patterns of behavior that were causing the clutter to build up in the first place, and we are no longer doing it, the good news is you're going to have less maintenance on the back end, which is great. And so if you're more mindful about your spending, you're more mindful about putting stuff away when, in its proper home, all of these things will make the maintenance easier. But that's not to say that you aren't still eventually at some point going to have to go in and reassess. Your kids are going to outgrow their clothes. They're going to change their interests of their, of their toys and of their, their hobbies. Clothes are going to go in and out of style. So things are going to happen. Food is going to expire. We're going to go through different things that we like, that we don't like, that we're using, that we're not using. But if we can get that foundational piece really, really dialed in by going, okay, this is what we're doing, and we're practicing this intentional discipline on the daily about putting things away back where they belong, not buying just for the sake of buying, not like leaving our schedule so jammed that we have no time to make the bed, put away the toys, put away the clothes, because we're running in 10 different directions. Those are the reasons, not all of the reasons, but those are some of the key reasons why the clutter comes up in the first place, because we don't giving ourselves enough time to dedicate to the actual organization piece, right? We might set up the system, but then we're not practicing it. So if we can really get into practicing it, that is going to help you with your sustainability. And then of course, delegating, right? Delegating and giving ownership to the people in your home so that they have their own responsibilities that they're responsible for. We work as a team unit, but everybody's kind of got their role on the team. And I think that that's really, really important. So just to kind of recap, The best systems that you can create for any space in your home are simple, sustainable, and built around you. What works for you in your life in this particular season, and that what works for you might not work for somebody else, and that's okay. Small tweaks over time are really the way to go. I think those small little adjustable dials are so much more impactful than just coming in and doing one big overhaul. I think that's really how we're able to see that incremental change really does add up. And then again, just not beating yourself up if you fall off the wagon. If something all of a sudden, like, you were doing great and then you're like, life happened and I fell off, it's okay. Just get back on and pick up where you left off. It's okay. Give yourself a little grace. And if you need a little help, that's what we're here for. Let us know. And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you're picturing a space in your home right now, I want you to think about, what can I do to tweak? What little things can I do to make this thing that isn't quite working maybe work a little bit better? Do that, write it down. And if you want to share it with us, we would love to see it. You can tag us on social media. You could shoot me an email at info@simplybeorganized, or put it in our Facebook group, This Organized Life Podcast, whatever works for you. We'd love to hear it, and see your progress. One last thing, again, I just want to give a shout out to my friends over at the Digital Wrangler, who for sponsoring this episode. They are our go-to people when it comes to all of our legacy planning. They help you organize all of your life's most important documents, medical, financial, passwords, you name it. And if you go to thedigitalwrangler.com/TOL, that's thedigitalwrangler.com/TOL, you can get 10% off of their foundations course, which is what I use in my own home, and I recommend it to all of my clients. So that's it for today's episode. I'll be back next week with another one. Until then, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.